Hi, my name is Ken Tabor, and I'm glad to be here. My goal is to help you start framing your understanding of generative AI. The purpose is to gain context and build up your perspective on this transformative technology. I've talked to a lot of people this year. Just to be sure, this is the setup. I'm on the left and some random person's on the right. Who are these people? Well, I've talked to a number of people in product management, in commercial sales and marketing and software engineering, people in the oil and gas industry, people in the legal and medical fields. The conversation normally goes like this. I'll say, hey, how's it going? What are you doing with generative AI? How are you approaching it? What's your perspective? Generally, if they don't simply walk away from me, they stare wistfully in the corner for a few seconds and then turn to me and reply, I don't have a position yet. I really don't know what to think of it. Fair enough. It's a rapidly moving technology with a deep past. For some, it's intimidating trying to catch up with the industry leaders. For some, they don't even know where to get started. For some, it's not on their radar in the least. For some, they stay awake at night wondering how they should be using AI to gain an advantage over their competition. Because we all know if you're not moving ahead, you're falling behind. Well, here's the good news. This tech has been around for a while and is having a strong cultural moment. Definite leaders are emerging. But it's still early and you're not behind. You've chosen the exact right time to be thinking about generative AI and to establish your approach to it. Here are the top 3 questions I hear from all of these people. What can I do with generative AI? Where is generative AI getting its information from? How can you trust what generative AI tells you? All outstanding questions. Let's unpack these one at a time. Generative AI can do many things, probably far too many to talk about here. But I'll give you these 5 concrete examples to use it as you begin your practice. Summarize, making complex text simpler to understand. Extract, structuring free-form written human data into JSON, CSV, and XML that you can use in a programming language like Python or Node.js. Classify, deciding if text fits a particular category. Write, producing human-ready text on any topic. Answering or brainstorming, responding from its general understanding of the world. I think so highly of generative AI that I wonder how long until executive managers start asking their teams how much of this was written using generative AI after hearing their presentations. Furthermore, how long until those executives march teams out the proverbial door when their answer is 0, we don't know how to use Gen AI. Because here's the deal, this tool will make you better. If you haven't used generative AI yet, this is the sort of prompt that you can feed into it. For example, I'm using ChatGPT Plus. I expect any good text-based AI to respond back a reasonable interpretation of how you trust anything is how you trust everything. And I like this because as far as I know, it wouldn't be trained on this statement. Here's another example of a prompt that you can send into a text-based AI. This is pretty complicated because it starts off saying, I want to know about how book authors structure their time to do the hard work. And then the last 3 items ask the AI, whatever it knows about these 3 books, to pull those into this answer it responds with. Here's a more complicated example. On the left-hand side is a business update from the second quarter of a Texas-based startup that I'm following called AST Space Mobile. On the right-hand side is a business update 1 quarter later. I'll ask ChatGPT Plus, summarize the differences between these 2, and answer with respect to someone like me, a retail investor wanting to understand the company's progress better. And it'll do it. These text-based AIs are really remarkable. They operate on what they know, but they'll operate on stuff that they haven't seen yet. I'd like to take a moment to talk to UXers in the crowd. There's a couple of emerging microinteractions that I see popping up in text-based AI systems. Perhaps you'll take them into your application. Look at this one. On the right-hand side, you'll see the snippet from ChatGPT Plus. If you look at the bottom, there's a little icon bar. The first icon, the clipboard, signals that this can be copied to the clipboard and then brought into some other app. That's a very useful thing to give a user, especially since we're dealing in text so much. In the middle, thumbs up and thumbs down. This is reinforcement learning. You're telling the AI as a user, good job or bad job. These are things that can be used to train the AI to help it understand better what people expect of it. Reinforcement learning is by a human's feedback, RLHF. The last one is a recycle icon on the right-hand side. I'll call this the do-over, but really it's regenerating the response. What if the AI doesn't quite give the user what they're satisfied with the first time? Go again. It's easy. Another design pattern I'm seeing emerging, which I think is very useful for you to consider for your application as you integrate AI. I'm calling it dynamic error analysis and correction. As a UXer, you've probably made placeholder text in your UI layouts, the famous lorem ipsum. There's generators all over the internet, but I decided I'm going to get ChatGPT to give me a concrete number. So you can see I wanted 73 words. ChatGPT at first, and I didn't capture it in this screenshot, gave me some. It seemed to do an analysis of its answer and discovered it was 42 words and not 73. It told that to me and it said, wait up, I'm going to give you that. So maybe this is a technique you can use when you're integrating AI in your applications for your users. The next one I'll call is prompt rewriting. This is using ChatGPT Plus. I wanted to generate an image. You can see on the left-hand side, I said, create an image of brave explorers. Well, behind the scenes, the AI, before it sent it into the image generation system, rewrote it to make it more interesting. That's on the right-hand side. Now, follow the flow back to the left-hand side, and you can see that image was generated. It suited my need, but it knew it could do better behind the scenes for its system, so it did it. And at the bottom, it took that prompt that it rewrote for me, and then it summarized it and displayed it to me as a bit of a subtitle. So my advice to you is to practice daily with generative AI. Allow yourself to be curious and open-minded and go discover what it can do. And my observation is generative AI gives answers to well-formed questions. In other words, it rewards people who know precisely what they want. And this is tricky about humans because a lot of times we don't actually know what we want. But the thing I like about text-based AI is that it forces me to write. Writing is incredibly powerful because it lets us know what we're thinking about a subject. If we don't know what to write about a subject, we can notice that, and we realize it's time to get away from the desk. We got to go read more. We got to get out of the office and go talk to people smarter than us, ask them questions, and listen what they say. Okay, so all of those people I talked to, the second question I got from them a lot is, where is generative AI getting its information from? A generative AI, more concretely a text-based one, such as ChatGPT Plus or Bard or Claude or a number of these, behind the scenes is powered by a large language model, an LLM. And an LLM is an AI system that can work with human written language. LLMs are built to find patterns in vast collections of written data. The industry refers to this data as the training text corpus. So I asked around, what do you use for your data for your LLM? And here's some just to give you an idea of what's going on. This is what large language models are trained on. This is what they know. It is interesting because the folks in major AI labs aren't exactly open-minded when it comes to revealing their secrets around data sources. In my research, I found some who talk about it. Sometimes they refer to it as training on a copy of the internet. It's already becoming more than a little bit spicy. You've probably seen this year mega knowledge sharing sites like Quora and Twitter, Reddit, Stack Overflow are drawing lines in the sand. They're closing free APIs. They're rate limiting, becoming a real grab for data. And just to be sure, when we're talking about the big subject of Gen AI, it's multimodal. It's not just text, but it's also sound and image. It's fascinating because we know that some AI can listen and speak. We know that some can see and draw. A few minutes ago, I alluded to some of these R&D labs or some of these communities who are building LLMs. They're training them on data. Who are these companies? Well, on the left-hand side, you can see there's already an impressive list of the LLM providers. I won't say these are closed source, but these are companies who are controlling the access to their LLMs. Parenthetically, you can see all of the company names. You'll recognize a number of them. Some that you don't, bookmark them in your brain and look for them in your readings. In orange, every one of them has a cool name for their LLM. On the right-hand side, in blue, these are some LLM names and companies that are building open source ones. They're more free to use. RAG. We can think of this as retrieve, augment, and generate. It's a technique used to extend or improve the responses generated by large language models. So in simple terms, RAG is a process where the LLM first looks up more information, then uses that information to make its response better and more informative. It's like adding extra details to a story to make it more accurate and complete. This helps improve the quality of answers provided by the LLM. For the people I talk to who are asking me, how does it know what it knows? You can easily imagine where the system, you ask it a question, it doesn't have an answer, so it's going to respond back the best it can. In the industry, they will call this hallucination if it's completely wrong in some parts of it. But you can use RAG to help fill in the blanks to make your answers better for you and your colleagues and your users. And you'll see more and more about RAG, but it might be codenamed based on what cloud service provider you use, especially if you're using these office productivity tools. So the major cloud office productivity companies are using RAG. It'll cost you extra, so to speak, to get this GenAI assistance. Where does the additional data come from to augment the LLM that they have at a foundational level? In Google Workspace, you'll refer to this as Duet, this assistant. And the extra data comes from if you give access to it, if you subscribe to it, your company's Gmail or your team's Drive or Docs or Sheets or Slides or YouTube, generally speaking. This is how Google has a trained foundational model that is reliable, but it will augment it by retrieving extra information. Microsoft Office 365, called it Copilot. Again, if you sign up for it, you pay for it, you give it permission, it's going to take the information from its foundational large language model and then augment it by retrieving data from your teams, your company's Outlook, OneDrive, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. That way you can really search across all the information that's at your organization. On the bottom, if you're building your own application and you're integrating with AI, you might plan with your engineering team how to use an open source tool called LangChain to take data from typical application stores like PDF, SQL, S3, APIs, World Wide Web, and decorate a foundational model's response with something concrete, current, specific. And really, none of this that we're talking about today is all that surprising. In 2006, Clive Humby said data is the new oil, followed up a few years later by Mark Andreessen, software is eating the world. In other words, all companies have eventually become software companies. If you accept that, do you think that all companies will become AI companies? If you understand what data an LLM is trained on, if you trust it, you can fill in the gaps of its knowledge with what you know about your company, about your industry, about your customers. And I mentioned continuing your learning. I'm happy that this is an accelerator pushing you in the right direction, a jumping off point. One of the things I recommend is learn from the companies making LLMs for generative AI products. These are developer documentation. On the left-hand side, we have OpenAI. On the right-hand side, we have Google Cloud. If you're an audience of product managers or perhaps in marketing, you might think that this is a little bit over your head. Please don't be intimidated. Have a look, scan. You're always going to pull something away that's useful. DevDocs have loads of high-level guides to help you form your prompts, practice with their LLMs, and generally load up your brain with patterns of how to think about this new tech. This final question that I heard from people a lot, how can you trust what generative AI tells you? Well, you could think of it, how do you trust a report written by a summer intern? How do you trust a deliverable from a third-party contractor? How do you trust a parts supplier in your logistics chain? When it comes to Gen AI, my starting position is how you trust anything is how you trust everything. That the way you feel about and rely on one thing or person can reflect how you generally feel about and rely on other things or people. If you're generally a trusting and confident person in one aspect of your life, you're likely to be trusting and confident in most other areas of your life, including Gen AI. On the other hand, if you tend to be skeptical and distrustful in one area, you might carry that skepticism into other areas like Gen AI. Let me give you some ways that you might position yourself when it comes to figuring out if you can trust Gen AI. Due diligence. You're going to find that there are multiple Gen AI providers out there. I showed you that exhaustive list of LLMs a couple of slides ago. You're going to need to test a few of them and decide which is the right solution for your problem space. Consider the reputation and track record of the LLM technology or company that developed the digital assistant that you want to use, that you want to integrate in your application. Established and reputable providers are more likely to deliver trustworthy AI. Consider feedback from other colleagues within your organization. What do they have to say about the reliability and accuracy of the digital assistant that they chose? User experiences can provide insights into trustworthiness. Consider conducting testing or pilot programs to assess the digital assistant's reliability and accuracy. Specifically, business scenarios for your users, for your industry, for your company, before widespread adoption. Have a bake-off. Pick 2 or 3, put them through their paces, see how they perform. You're a human being. You have an instinct. If something doesn't feel right, doesn't sit correctly, it's worth investigating further. Don't discount those feelings. They're totally valid and they might lead to something important. Ultimately, as a human being, we're pairing up with these digital assistants. Don't trust them blindly without critical evaluation, especially for these important decisions that run your business. Humans can provide judgment and context, of course. Generative AI is the perfect opportunity. Generative AI is full of fear and risk. You get to decide which applies to you. Whichever one you say over and over again is going to be correct. I hope you found what I shared today to be useful and interesting. Connect with me on LinkedIn or X. Look for my personal blog, Code and Chats. This video is associated with an article on there, and the slides are available as a PDF. Kindly share that material with someone who will benefit. Good luck and have fun. I'll see you next time.